Welcome to Made for Mondays, the source for digging a little deeper into the Believers Church Sunday messages and finding ways to apply them to our daily lives. Together, let's take a deeper look and find a way to bring Mondays back to life.
Hey everybody, welcome to the pod. My name is Heather, and who are you fellas?
Hey there, Heather. It's me, Jamie.
Hi, I'm Sam, creative director.
Oh, you are?
Apparently.
That's how we're starting.
Yeah, I knew this is how this was starting.
Man, we've been talking for 15 minutes.
Nope.
It hasn't come up at all.
That's because he's saving it.
I had two options. One, I just wasn't going to say a word.
He's saving it for right now. He told me yesterday he was so excited to just come in
guys,
here.
You know me. I'm not quickly offended. But I got to be honest, we preach Matthew 18 around here in first service.
You're running to conflict right now. Okay.
My ears
Publicly,
my
you're
ears
running
were
to
burning.
conflict?
Yeah.
They were burning.
This is very Matthew 18 appropriate.
Yeah.
I skipped a few steps and jumping right into
I'm not even taking it to the church, taking it to the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm letting everybody know
we
I'm
only
leaving.
have 5
It's a
people
small world.
that are
I know.
watching.
But I mean, like, organizationally, this is
All right.
beyond the church.
So I feel like I need to clear the air
yeah.
and let
You
everyone
said
know.
apologize wrong, but okay. But fine. Go ahead.
Well, okay.
If you feel like you need to bring it up.
Maybe I said apologize wrong because I already freaking apologized to you.
Yeah.
Not
Same.
publicly.
Okay. Well, so yesterday we had a wonderful service.
We did.
Yes.
Someone in this room may have like messed up a song or two, but other than that, it was like really great.
It was a great day.
And so,
I'm not gonna interrupt you.
Okay. You just did. So we get to the end of service and we had a little surprise planned.
Yeah.
The surprise was for you, Jamie.
Right.
Yes.
You can address that in a moment.
I will.
But taking care of the Sam situation right now. Before we got to the surprise for you, I made mention that October is Pastor Appreciation Month. And so I listed our pastors.
Yep.
Yes. Very nice of you.
And in the first service, I neglected to say Pastor Sam, our creative pastor.
Well,
I did give Pastor Sam a shout out in the message.
You did,
You
yeah.
did.
So
So
you were
then,
technically acknowledged.
and
That's
I
true.
truly
Any
did not
publicity is good
even
publicity.
realize it. I went out to the commons in between services and I'm talking to a bunch of people, and my son Spencer, who was running sound yesterday, came up to me and said, "Has Sam already
Found you.
found you?" And I was like, "No. What happened? I've been known to say things on stage that I shouldn't say."
That's true.
Yes.
And I get into like repeating patterns with
You
those
do,
things.
yeah.
And so I was like, and I don't realize I'm doing it. And so I was afraid
This was the opposite, actually.
that's what happened. And I was like, oh no, what did I say? And he said, no, it's not what you said. It's what you didn't say. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, what? Did I miss an announcement? Did I whatever? He said, you didn't say when you were talking about the pastors. And I went,
Yeah.
I didn't say Sam's name.
Well,
And I was truly very like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. I went over and
That's all
gave
I
you a
needed to
big
hear.
hug. And I said, I'm so sorry. Will you forgive me? And you said, wait until the pod.
Yeah.
That was your response
So I'm
to
not
me.
going to forgive you, first of all. Second of all,
Clearly.
I was worried. So you started listening to pastors, and I was like, wow, she's saving me right before the boss man. I was like, right hand. I felt pretty good. I was like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah.
And then she just went right into Pastor Jamie. So it was a roller coaster of emotions that first service. Pastor Jamie's been trying to rip me of my title for years. And I thought finally,
Yeah.
finally it was done. They just didn't
Yeah.
tell me.
yeah.
Barely gave it to you. to
But I
begin
did.
with.
I leaned over to my wife when you skipped over, and I was like, while it seems weird, this is going to be very good for me.
such a jerk.
They said you said something in second service, but
I did say something.
I made it a point not to go in there because I didn't want to lose the feeling I felt from first service.
I mean, I did say something,
Ever.
but I also tried to like downplay the fact that you are a pastor.
Nice. Okay, I respect that then. Oh,
because I knew you'd like
I messed
come
up.
in hot.
Messed up a song first service, had to restart it.
Yeah.
Jamie,
That hasn't happened in a little while.
no, Jamie, and I have a history with that song.
Oh, do you?
Yes. The drummer, Brandon, he has multiple recordings of me messing up that song throughout the years. 'Cause
Really?
It's an old song.
Okay, that's fine.
And I've messed it up a lot.
Maybe we just shouldn't do it.
I think Megan schedules it on purpose
Oh,
for me.
well, then I
she's
support
like,
it.
this guy needs humbled. And it's time. So she just throws
It's a
it out
good
there.
song.
So that was the first one. Jamie hates on my Cleveland Browns. That was the second one. And then Heather just completely skips over me. So 3 L's in one service.
It's a tough service.
Sometimes you got tough days. It's a tough Sunday. We should do that where we do like the coaches' interviews after the game.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be so funny. How'd you feel about service? Tough one out there today. Felt like we prepared. We
Yeah.
put it all together,
Yeah.
but it just did not
It
show
just didn't
up.
happen.
Execution.
Yeah.
We just dropped the ball.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're grateful for Jamie's 20 years.
Yeah, Jamie, we're so excited that you
made
made
it.
it 20 years.
So it's very complicated, my 20 years.
It is very
Yeah.
complicated.
Yeah. So it was 20 years March that I came back from France. It's actually 20 years July coming up that I became the interim.
Yes.
And then it's May the following year that it's official.
I know.
So I can hit
That's
the 20
why-
mark
We just
3
picked
different
one.
times. Yeah.
That's why, like, we had planned to do something else when you actually became the senior pastor, like
Right.
officially.
Right. That's 2 years away.
Right. So I guess maybe we'll do
We didn't
something
wanna wait.
again.
Yeah.
But then it was like announced in, because we do staff recognitions
Mm-hmm.
in our all staff, and that was announced a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, oh, this is just getting confusing. It's Pastor Appreciation
Let's
Month.
just call it.
We're just going to call it.
We're
We've
just
been
gonna
doing
keep
the
doing
thing
it
for 20 years.
For the next, over the next 2 years, we're
yeah,
going
we're
to
just
do it
gonna be
several
like,
different
guys,
times.
guess what? It's Jamie's 20 year.
Church
They're
going
gonna
to
be like,
so
wait a
confused.
What in the world?
What's going on? 3 years in a row. It's Jamie's 20th year.
Although if you're anywhere for 20 years, it's going to be confusing and a lot of things happen. So
probably true.
you made it.
So I was thinking about this morning, and it just kind of made me chuckle to myself. I've been the pastor here long enough that some people have left the church twice.
Yeah, that's
Since
true.
I've been
back.
And come back.
They've left, come back, and then left again.
And they're like, he's still here.
But maybe not all bad reasons. Maybe they moved away and moved back.
no,
No,
the one I was thinking of was just like, no, they left, they came back, they left again.
Yeah.
I had a conversation. Well,
I haven't gone
It's
anywhere,
true. Yeah.
but they've bounced
they were,
twice.
they were hoping you did.
Yeah, that's the thing. They came back and they were like, this guy again.
It's so funny.
We thought
Oh,
he'd be
man.
gone by now.
Yeah, I mean, they came back for several years. It wasn't like they came back for
Yeah.
a Sunday and thought, "Oh, he's still here."
Right.
No, they.
I love that.
Yeah, I think it's
It's
great.
redemption stories.
And here's my hope. My hope is I can make it to 30, and then maybe
You can get
they'll come and go.
3 Peters.
Another,
Yeah.
again. That's long enough that rotation should happen
man.
one more time in my pastorate.
So are you thinking 30 from this year or from 2 years from now? Or
yeah. We'll
Great.
see.
That's kind of
Yes.
we'll see.
Yes.
Yeah, minimum.
That's what he's thinking.
Minimum 10 is what I'm
Yeah.
thinking. But maybe it'll be 11.
It's actually
and possibly
interesting.
12.
It's like we were talking about Paul a lot. It's like the reverse missionary journeys, though.
Yeah.
Because you're not going anywhere, but people leave and then they come back. Just
Yeah.
like Paul would have left the church for a while,
Right.
went to other churches.
It's
and
kind of
came back.
that's right.
It's just
yeah,
different.
they're on their
They're on
own
their
missionary
journey.
journey.
Yes.
Yeah. That's good. I like that.
The church shoppers would love to know that they could be called church
yeah,
missionaries.
they're church
It
missionaries.
is what it is. Yeah, I'm sure.
When really all it is that they bounce from several churches in
We're
our
going to
community.
get in trouble now. So just leave
I'm
it.
just, well, whatever.
Yeah.
So Jamie, 20 years. How do you feel about it? How did you feel about yesterday?
I was mortified.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, yeah. All that attention was just too much. And it's honestly like, I just can't even hardly believe it's been that long.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that it's been 20 years.
Yeah.
But it's been 20 years.
Yeah. Chris was our stage guy yesterday, and he said when Jamie came off that first service, he did not look good.
Yeah. I couldn't wait to get off the stage.
I told him, I was like, well, he's probably upset that he has to do it again. He knows he has to do it again next service now.
He was like, I think he was hopeful.
I was like, there's no way that
No.
she's doing it a second time.
Because the first service, I like gave him a card, and I went to like find the card, and I was like, he's hidden it so that I won't do it again.
No, I was just carrying it around.
Yeah. I mean, did I feel like maybe at some point someone was going to run at the end of second service and be like, Sam, they need you on stage. And I was going to be like, okay, I'll go up there. And it was going to be this thing. Maybe I did think that. But anyways.
That was a completely foolish thought.
Anyways, that didn't happen. So congrats to you, Jamie.
Thank you. Yeah.
And your pastorate.
I appreciate it.
Yes, so good. So you guys, what did you do this past week or this past weekend? Anything fun, exciting?
So we had an elder retreat on Saturday.
Yeah, tell us about that.
And we haven't done one of those in a very, very long time. And Robin Orr made sure that we did one this time.
Yes.
And I'm very thankful that he did. We had a great time. We went up to Afton, Virginia, did the, what's it called? The Afton Tunnel or whatever that hike
no
is.
idea.
There's
I was going to say, Sam, this
I knew
is
it
right
was
up your
hiking.
You're a hiker.
alley.
I haven't
Yeah.
hit that trail yet.
Yeah, you're a
Sounds
hiker.
good. Let me write it down.
Yeah. It's an old railroad tunnel that was carved out pretty much with dynamite and by hand.
Wow.
And several folks died in the construction of it. It's a pretty
Well,
cool.
that's an uplifting story.
It's historically, it's a pretty amazing feat, even just like an engineering feat that they were able to pull it off. And Crozet, the guy that town is named after was the engineer for this tunnel.
Okay.
Little Virginia history there.
You know where Crozet is. It's
Yeah,
on the way out to Charlottesville.
It's out towards Charlottesville.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, nice little town. So we did the hike, and then we went to Blue Mountain Brewery for lunch.
Nice.
And we did a little elder SWOT analysis.
Good.
Strength, weakness,
Weakness.
opportunity, threat. And it was just super fun. And then we did our drive home. Everyone up and back took turns sharing their testimony of how they came to faith. And that was super
cool.
fun. I hadn't heard, it's crazy to think about, but
In detail, you
I have not heard all of their stories. So it was really fun to
That's
hear
awesome.
everyone's story on the way up and back. Yeah, it was just a really great time.
How long is that drive?
2.5 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. Yes, we
cool.
left around 7, got back around almost 5 o'clock, I guess. Yeah,
Nice.
it was a good day.
Very cool.
Awesome. What about you?
What did we do? Friday night, we did all the Western Branch had their homecoming.
Oh, yes.
So we did the parade over on Jamie Street.
Yep. We watched from our living room.
Took
Yeah.
the kids over there. They did pretty good with the parade this year. The floats were pretty decent.
It was a long line.
Yeah, it was pretty good. And then we did the homecoming game, and it's wild. High school kids are wild. I mean, middle school kids, it was great people watching. So we had a good time.
Did Western Branch win?
They didn't. They didn't. They ran. They played Deep Creek, and I guess Deep Creek wasn't supposed to be good, but they were pretty solid. So they didn't win, but we had a good time. It was a beautiful night. And then Saturday, Mason had some games, and we went and watched flag football and hung out, watched the Buckeyes, and just had a great weekend.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went over.
Oh, I'm sorry. And
That's
Addie
okay.
had homecoming.
Yes.
So my oldest went to her first homecoming. Well, not her first, but at Western Branch, her first.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she did that with her friends, and they did great and got all dressed up. And I wasn't
looked
happy.
beautiful.
Did look very fancy.
Yeah, so that was our weekend.
So good. Yeah, we went on Friday night to one of our favorite spots. We went over to the Fin and Tonic Speakeasy, which we haven't been to for
Haven't
a little
been there
while.
in a long time.
So we met some friends there, and that was really fun.
Get me started on tapas.
It wasn't tapas.
That's what they do there.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
All the food.
At Fin and Tonic?
Yeah.
No. I had an entire meal.
We agree.
I had a
disagree.
steak.
Did they change?
I don't know. Wait, no.
Okay.
All right. And then we went on Saturday. We had some friends of ours from Norway are visiting, so we had them come over and hang out with the whole fam. And we had a nacho taco bar and kids running around all over the place. And
fun.
it was good times.
Yeah.
No, it was really fun. So just a lot of good family time.
Nice.
Catching up with friends. It was good. And then we had our great day yesterday. Before we get into yesterday, Jamie, last week, the directional team and our next gen team spent some time down in Atlanta area. And we were a part of the Unconditional Conference.
We went to the
we attended.
Yeah, we attended. We didn't part of I said that wrong. Are there any highlights or anything you guys want to share about what you experienced there?
Yeah, it's so this whole conference generated a relatively large amount of conflict within the church world.
Yeah.
And because the purpose of the conference was to equip parents of kids who are somewhere on the LGBTQ plus. So kids who identify or come out and identify somewhere on that spectrum. And so North Point Church for the last 10, 11 years has had a ministry to help parents whose kids are coming out, because the parents just feel they're not sure how to respond. They're not sure, even biblically, theologically, how they should respond to what's going on in their kids' lives. And as more and more kids were, coming out or identifying in that way, they were starting to identify, man, this is a real need. There's a lot of parents who are struggling, and we need to figure out how to come alongside of them. And so that's a ministry that North Point has done for a very long time. It's called Parent Connect. Mm-hmm. The conference itself actually was sponsored by another organization that's separate from North Point. The founders of that organization attend North Point, but it's a separate ministry. In North Point, the way they said it was they hosted this conference. They didn't put the conference on. Mm-hmm. That other organization put the conference on. I think that's noteworthy.
Yeah.
Because the people who put the conference on are the ones that selected the speakers and whatnot. So it generated controversy because some of the presenters were in the affirming category, meaning that they believe that same-sex marriage is, biblically okay. And so the assumption was if they were there, that means North Point has now changed their position on this topic theologically.
I think something to note there, too, they did have speakers that may be non-affirming.
They did, yeah.
That ended up having to back out because of
all the controversy.
Yeah, controversy around it. Like there was just...
Yes. And not all presenters there were affirming
either. Yeah, correct.
So it was kind of a mixed bag of people. And then the following Sunday, Andy addressed the church and he addressed the controversy and kind of laid out what the conference was, what it was about, why they did it, what their stance is. And that's available now online, so anyone who wants to watch it can. Even that has, people are parsing every single word that he said. And so even that I thought it was a very clear, good message. I've listened to a couple of different critiques now. And some of them, I think there may be some merit to some of the criticisms, I guess. But, I also think as soon as I'm done teaching a message, I could go back through my message and find things that I probably would say a little bit differently. Yeah. And, I think... Well,
it's kind of a splitting of hairs.
Yeah, parsing everyone's words, is... I mean, it's a lot. So at the conference itself, I would say I didn't hear anything that I really disagreed with. Mm-hmm. There was one. I was talking with the elders about it a little bit on Saturday. There was one session that I was in. It was a breakout session that it was interesting. I found it to be very thought provoking. The guy was a theologian, a scholar. He's written 25 different things. He's affirming in his theology, and some of his. It was very interesting how he was talking about the subject matter, and I don't know that I really would endorse some of what he proposes. I think could be kind of problematic theologically. But other than that, and even that, like I wasn't like deeply offended. It wasn't, and he didn't even really address that topic specifically of homosexuality. He just talked generally, and he was trying to. Again, the conference was for parents of kids who've come out. So,
Correct.
He was coming at it from that angle, not from and everyone that was presenting was coming at it from the angle of, how are we going to equip parents here? So even one of the presenters that was affirming in a breakout session got a question, and in his response, he said, that's really outside of the scope of what this conference is about. So I thought that they did a fantastic job. Given what the purpose of the conference was, I thought they did a wonderful job.
Well, that's what I was going to say too, is just they stayed so focused
They really did.
What the conference was about. And I just appreciated that so much because it's kind of like, and we were talking about this even while we were there, but even with the like polarizing series, like we had, this is what we wanted this series to be about and to accomplish. And so we, even in all of those messages, that's what we were trying to stick to. Like, this is what we're trying to present, that people on both sides of any topic can be followers of Jesus and do so well. And you have to meet people where they are. Middle, right.
You have to meet them where they are if you're gonna love them towards Jesus.
So I thought that was like just really cool to see in this too. Like this conference could have gone all sorts of different directions, and with all the variety of presenters that were there and leading breakouts, those breakouts could have gone into things that even the embracing the journey didn't want to have happen, and yet everyone really honored that's not what it was for.
And so embracing it was really the journey is the name of the organization that put on the conference.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I didn't know going into, like, if I would have just read the articles that were being written about the conference beforehand, I would have assumed that I was walking into just like a theological war zone. And it was just going to be this big battle. And the first session I sat in, like, Holy Spirit checked my heart because I started looking around the room and I could see the ages of these parents that probably have kids that are probably from high school through like their college years into like their adulthood now. That are struggling with, they may have approached it wrong when their child came out. And now how can they develop those relationships just to be able to walk a journey with them now? Yeah. And that really pressed into my heart. So putting the theology away for just a second and learning that like Jesus was still loving, Jesus still was caring. So how do we do that? How do we walk a journey so that we can even have discussions about Jesus and what the Bible's teaching? Like we can't even have that right now. You can't even come to the table. So trying to get to the table with our kids, and it's real, but it only gets super real until that happens to you in your life. And you have a relationship like that. Yeah.
And so, that's the tension, anyone who's non-affirming in their theology, but you have a kid who comes out. I mean, that's the crisis.
Correct.
And that's the tension of saying like, okay, I disagree with, the decision, the life choice that my kid is making, but ultimately it is their decision. You're not responsible for their decision. So how do you, as a parent, still love them well, even if they're doing something that you disagree with?
And garner a space to have influence.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so, the noise about this conference ahead of time, including people at Believers who were, posting and circulating articles that were about a conference that hadn't even occurred yet. and making generalizations and negative connotations about something that they were not a part of at all. It's about the most unchristian thing to be doing.
Yeah, everybody's story is different. Like, I know we don't want to spend too much time on this, but this hit me when I was there. We sat down the second day, and it had to be a God moment because these two parents sat down next to me just real quick, and the mom leans over and she just goes right into her story. I'd never met the woman. I don't even know her name. Yeah. And she just goes in, and this is the season they're in. Their son is just turned 21. He's come out as trans, and he's deciding to go into some medical work now being done. And they are trying to figure out, it's his decision. It's his life. Right. They can't change his decision.
Correct.
But what they can do is they can walk a journey with him and still try to show love of Jesus. That is where people are at, right? Like,
and
go ahead.
You told me that they are on staff at a church.
And they are on staff at a church where if she told the staff this, she'd probably lose her job because of what her son's going through.
Right.
Like that.
And that was the story of so many folks.
So many. And I know that's not everybody's story. Right. So you could go in there and be like, well, that's not true because this person's going through this. But I'm saying overwhelmingly what we experienced there was those are the stories of what people are trying to figure out.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, man. Yeah.
It was 2 days, and it was by the first session of the first day, we were like, intense. This is a lot.
Yeah.
So it was, just really grateful for North Point allowing Embrace the Journey to have this event there, and for their, I think just being willing to like wade into the messy. Like we talk about that around here all the time, and North Point's just doing it on a really like a much larger scale. And, and when you do that, you don't always do things perfectly.
Yeah, never. In fact, never.
The definition of messy it makes it that not possible. So, but we just appreciate that we were able to be a part of that and that we're learning along the way.
Yeah, a lot more discussions to be had.
Lots more discussions to be had.
In a healthy way.
Yep.
Right. Yep. Exactly. All right. Well, let's get into yesterday. We continued our series, Joyride. And Jamie, to open up, you just kind of set the stage again, reminding us that Paul was able to sit in prison and be full of joy because he knew that if he wanted to become like Jesus, it would require suffering.
Yeah.
So Jesus suffered, at least in part, because when he entered our world, he took on all that it means to be human, and humans suffer.
Yeah.
So why is shared suffering a part of our relational connection?
Yeah, the way you asked the question, I like. I had heard someone recently kind of reframe some of the, like I've always thought about like, well, Jesus suffered, so and Paul has written about, and so did Peter, write about when we suffer, we participate in the suffering of Christ, and that's how I've always thought of it. But then someone kind of reframed it recently and said, no, Jesus entered into our experience. We suffer, and so he, to make a connection with us, entered into suffering to identify with us in a way.
Right.
I thought, wow, that's an incredible. That's a slight shift, but
it
just seems so significant to me.
So perplexing to me, because it's like, well, Jesus didn't have to suffer. He wasn't suffering when he was with God the Father. So he entered suffering when he came into our sinful world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So So what's your answer to the question?
I don't know. I mean, I don't really know.
Yeah.
I just know that, suffering is part of our existence. Jesus did suffer. Mm-hmm. The writer of Ecclesiastes, he talks about how sadness, and you could say suffering, has a refining effect on us. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe that's part of it, is when we go through difficulties, we're far more shaped by those than we are just going through
for sure
easy times, right? So I think part of it is it's in those moments that we're malleable and we can be shaped in our character more. I think that's probably part of it. Anyway.
Yeah, this is a broad scope example, but I can remember like football days. We used to have to do like 2-a-days, and you you were on a team together, and I went to a Christian school, so we had a thing called Golgotha.
Oh gosh.
But it was running hills. So you had to go up the hill,
such
down
a
the hill.
Christian
It was
school
so
thing to
Christian,
do.
right? It was awesome.
Oh,
but
man.
that was Golgotha. But I can think of this moment where like you would get done and you had to do 4 quarters, so you had to do it 4 times. And then I can remember you get to the end and some dumb senior would be like, it's overtime. And you're like, you got to do one more, right? And everybody's mad. But at the end, you're all together and everybody like literally can't breathe. Some guys are puking. Some are like passing out. But like you guys went through that together. And you get done with it, and now you can remember and you can share stories and be like, oh man, remember that like second, third quarter? That was brutal. But then you have it on the other side is like we even see like Gaza and stuff going on right now, and like what these people are going through on both sides. Yeah. And it's terrible, and that's suffering. But that's been going on since Old Testament. And these people are sticking, like they're suffering together, and there's still a bond that's coming from that. So it's I know those are 2 like drastic different examples, but that's what I think of in the sufferings for whatever reason. What Jamie's saying, like it brings you together. It bonds you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Paul's outlook on his location, being in prison, was as a mission field, and that's just so inspiring. So, what are some places we might uniquely occupy that could be considered a mission field? I just don't think we think of that very often.
Well, as we said, someone leaving Believers and going to another church.
Right.
It's a new mission field.
It's a new mission field. There you are. I mean, really anywhere, right? So you go to work, and the people that you work with, it's no accident that you're there. So try to wield your influence there. We've talked about this quite a bit, but most of us could do a lot better job in our neighborhoods. Yeah. Where we live. I mean, goodness, people are literally 20, 30 feet away from you.
Yeah.
And if they're outside of faith, then that's a mission field. That's an opportunity to, garner some influence. When we lived in France, the mission field was the drop off of kids at school. It was the parents of all the kids our kids interacted with. Yeah. That was our mission field. I mean, literally every contact we made while we were in France came from our kids being in public school. And man, that's a great opportunity. Sports teams, if your kid's playing on a sports team, don't just sit in your car on the phone. Yeah. Go to the sidelines with the other parents and try to, strike up some conversations and have relationships.
It's a shift in mindset, because I just thought that actually was my prayer over the weekend. Well, actually kind of last night as I was reading through this. I kind of wasted a mission field this whole weekend. Like we were at a parade, we went to a high school game, like thousands of people. Right. And I was like, man, I didn't really like make that I didn't make connections. Like I didn't try. We just kind of sat as a family and watched the game, which was fine or whatever. But I mean, there were opportunities had I looked for that. So it's a mindset shift of being like, okay, you have, and it's easy to fall out of that. Like, I mean, goodness, I work at a church and sometimes I forget it. But it's like, you have to remind yourself that, hey, who am I going to come in contact with? What could that mean for their life? Like, what could that mean for this mission?
Yeah, I think of even as a staff, we're like really encouraging some community engagement this year. It's something that we've put in front of our staff. Like if you're going out, if you're having lunches out in the community and stuff, like don't just go to maybe like the chain restaurant or something, but like go somewhere that we can really get to know these small business owners and build relationships with them. And it's just a mind shift. As you were talking about the kids stuff, every morning when I'm leaving my neighborhood, there's a whole group of parents and kids that stand at this one. It's kind of, our neighborhood's weird. There's like all these little
I get turned around every time I go back there.
Back there, but there's like this plot of land and it's a bus stop. So they all just hang out there until all the buses come through to pick up the kids going to the various schools. And that would be a perfect spot. Take hot chocolate out there or something in the morning and just build relationships with people.
Yeah, it's good.
Such good ideas.
Like, what are you doing here? It's like, I'm just hanging out by the bus
stop.
Not
me. Like if you're in that stage of life, I have other things I need to be doing right now.
Nate just out by the bus stop.
Gosh. Okay. All right, bud. Come inside.
You got to go home. No, seriously, they're making you go home.
Yeah, when he gets a little older, it'll be okay.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, Grandpa Nate.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
You know.
Yeah. Oh, man.
He's going to love
Neighborhood grandpa.
So we've walked alongside people in some of their greatest struggles, and all three of us have gone through some pretty devastating situations ourselves. So how have you seen the faith of others in those seasons inspire confidence in God's goodness despite circumstances?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I have. I mean, obviously, I've seen a lot of people go through a lot of horrific things. And more times than not, I see people's faith grow stronger.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there are some things that I've seen that I'm like, man, if they can make it through this, you
Yeah.
know, or I'm anticipating that they're probably not going to, but more times than not, their faith gets stronger as they go through that season.
Yeah.
I think.
You said, I will not remember this verbatim.
Good word.
Great word.
Wow.
From Martin Luther, the quote. But
yeah.
it talked about like God doesn't need your works, but your neighbor does.
Yeah.
And I know we've shared a lot of our stories throughout our lives and our seasons. But whenever I've seen something happen to a family here, or they're going through something like super difficult, their works for their neighbors start to show up because people start showing up for them.
Yeah, for sure.
And now I know that doesn't always correlate, but man, what a big like their works that they're putting in right now, maybe in good seasons or on top of the mountains.
Yep.
Like when they hit the valley, like those works get repaid by the people that they've put time into.
Yep.
And I've just seen that over and over and over again because they've suffered with others. When they're suffering, people will suffer with them. Like, yeah, it's just.
Yeah, that's so good.
It really is.
Yeah, because there is the flip side of that, and we've seen that too, where someone has not
Isolated.
connected. They've kind of stayed off to themselves. They haven't come alongside other people,
Yeah.
and then they hit these devastating moments, and it's just it adds to the sadness
Yeah.
of
Right.
what they're going through because
Right.
you're like they just don't have people around them.
Yeah.
And I think of that like even in our own things over the years, like we say all the time, like, I don't know what we would have done had we not had these people in our lives to come alongside of us.
Right.
So you said, Jamie, that Paul doesn't get spun up over those whose motives are false or who are trying to make a name for themselves at Paul's expense. So how have you found the example of his response challenge and or encourage you in your leadership at Believers?
Yeah, so that part I was kind of preaching to myself because I struggle with that a lot. You know, Paul seems to just take criticism or, you know, people trying to build off of his misery. He just seems to, it doesn't seem to faze him a bit, you
no
know,
big
like,
deal.
no big deal. As Christ is being preached, that's all that matters. And I believe to my core that like other churches, other ministries, they're not competitors. We're all on the same team. We're all trying to build God's kingdom. We all should do better working together. All of that. We even talked about that in our all staff last week. But having said all of that, you know, if something great's happening at another church, there's parts of me that are like, oh, you know,
Why isn't that happening
Yeah,
here?
why isn't that happening here? Kind
Yeah.
of thing. You know, if it's so petty, it's almost embarrassing to admit that,
Yeah, it's true.
that it's a thing. But for me, it's a thing. And so, that was kind of for me yesterday. Why can't we just let everyone do their thing and celebrate when good things are happening wherever they're
Yeah.
happening,
Yeah.
and I don't have to point out that something good's happening there, but it's happening because this guy or whatever this
Right.
church is doing something that's, you know, find a piece to be critical of and say, yeah, that's probably why that's happening. But you know,
bet.
I don't like when people do that to me.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I have a tendency.
while you made it seem like Paul had it all figured it out and was like, yeah, he could just brush that stuff off. I bet if you sat down with him for like 2 or 3 hours, he'd be able to be like, yeah, this is all like how he struggled with that probably for a while, and how he was able to like overcome that and move on. Like you gave, I was looking for this and I made your message notes. I listened to your message and then it didn't hit me until you preached your message yesterday. But it was the Philippians 1:18. But that doesn't matter whether their motives are false or genuine. The message about Christ is being preached either way. So I rejoice and I will continue to rejoice.
Yeah.
And I love that so much.
Yeah.
Kanye West came out with an album like back in 2019 or 20, and it was called Jesus is Lord. And the album, like the lyrics in the album were the message of Jesus. And people were, oh, it doesn't matter. He does this and look what he did before and look what he's probably going to do after and what he has done after and all that stuff. And I was trying to always figure out like, it's the message.
Yeah.
The message is what it is. And so like we can look at churches and we'd be like, well, look what they did there and look what they did there. But their message is, just is still about Jesus, like is about that hope. And if you can get in that mindset, that helps me a little bit instead of being
And the Holy Spirit does the work.
Correct.
Like, so even if there's false, if what's being put out there is truth,
right,
and whoever is saying it is coming at it with the wrong motives or with the wrong agenda or whatever, the Holy Spirit is powerful enough to still use it to speak to someone's journey and to draw them closer to Christ. So, yeah, I think that it is hard. It's hard to navigate that. I think it's also like when we see the people kind of moving from church to church, I think that's where some of that comes from church leadership.
Yeah, that theme today.
Yeah, and it's I think we're not the only church leaders that experience that.
Right,
All of our neighborhood community churches, I know their staff struggle with the same thing. Like they have the same revolving doors.
Right.
So I think some of that is just like more of a frustration with that than it is with the church itself.
Yeah.
Is just like, okay, well, you're going to go there now because they're doing this thing, but when they're not doing that thing or when they start doing something you don't like, you're going to go to the next church. And that's where I think some of that gets.
Yeah, and that's the other side of that. So, like the main thing should just be the main thing. And so many Christians get so spun up over so many inconsequential things or less consequential things, There's everything can't be your core belief.
Yeah.
So you have to have, there are some things like the gospel that, boy, you better not fudge on that. But then there are other things that just don't reach that status. And you can just say like, okay, like I don't agree with that, but it doesn't matter because we agree on the most important thing. And I think there's far more of those categories than there are the most important categories.
Yeah. So the crux of your message yesterday was Philippians 1:21.
Yeah.
For me to live is, and you said blank.
Yep.
And to die is blank. So can you just kind of talk us through that a little bit as a refresher this morning?
Yeah. So I mean that's the part where, this week and last week where Paul the thing that's driving him, the desire that he has, that's what comes out in verse 21. His desire is Christ. For him to live is Christ, and to die is gain. So like that's his everything. He's got he desires that more than anything. That's why his joy, doesn't break down. That's why his hope doesn't run out. And so the challenge that I put out there yesterday was just like figure out honestly, what would your answer be? And it's so easy to have something other than Christ in that spot. And so, we talked about, for some people it's their family, for some people it's their career, for some people it's just, the good life, or it could be so many things. It's the most important thing. And I mentioned yesterday, even if you haven't answered that question, like thought about what your answer is, how you live is the answer.
Right. Yeah.
So you've already answered it. You just got to look at your life and say, what is the most important thing?
Yeah.
If I were to take if if a Martian were to show up and look at your life, what would they say is the most important thing?
Yeah. Well, I also appreciated that you pointed out that just because you answer Christ doesn't mean you can't have those things that you just listed.
Sure.
You can't have a family. You can't have a career. You can't even enjoy the good life. Like that's not what that means. So how do we ensure we keep a Christ-centered perspective?
Well, I think when everything that we have, those things, the family, the stuff, the whatever it is, even the career, when all of those things become all about us, that's when we've crossed that line. So using those things to bring honor to Christ is how it's all about Christ. Like even your objective for your family, like if your number one objective is that your kid graduate with honors or become a professional, athlete, whatever the thing is that you're driving your kids towards, like the most important thing ought to be their spiritual development and their relationship with Jesus. So like, even as a parent, like you can say like, yeah, obviously family, if you have family, that should be a very important thing in your life. But your goals for your family should incorporate the purposes of Christ. And if they don't, then you've gone off the rails. And that's true for all of those things. If your career, if you compromise your character and who Christ has called you to be in your pursuit of accomplishments in your career, well, then your career is not about Christ. It's about you. And if all of your toys are for just you and your pleasure, and they take you away from connecting to a spiritual family and places to serve and all of those, well, then those toys have become all about you. So you can run anything in your life through that grid. If it's for others or to honor others or it incorporates the calling of Christ, then that's a pretty healthy thing. And if it's not, if it moves you in a different direction, then that's a sign that.
Yeah. Well, that leads us right into our big idea for this week. And that is, when my desire is Jesus, my hope never runs out.
Yeah.
So how should the hope Jesus offers stir us to be others focused?
Yeah. So how should it stir us to be others focused? The whole idea there is for Paul, his whole thought was, no matter what happens to me, I'm gonna be with Christ. And part of his desire is I want to equip others. And so, yeah, to have this moment where you're pondering, man, am I going to live or die? And then your conclusion is it's better for other people that I live, so I'm pretty sure God's going to let me live. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty amazing thought process to go through. Like, yeah, they really need me. So because I'm investing so much in other people, I'm pretty sure God's going to just let me live so I can keep pouring into other people.
Yeah.
That's pretty remarkable.
Mine's way more simplistic. It's like you go to a restaurant and you order something, you have a coupon. You get to use the coupon. They're like, hey, you know what? You can have this back, but you can't use it anymore. And instead of giving it to the person behind you or the person sitting beside you, you just put it in your pocket and you just leave. It's like, why you just using this gift of grace and not giving it to anybody else? Yeah. So what does Jesus' hope offer? It offers us like giving somebody else hope, which like, how amazing is that to give someone else like hope, and not just like their next day when they wake up, but like eternal hope is just, it's wild.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts, guys?
That was a lot. We covered
a
whole bunch of things.
Well, it's good because that's all we got time for today.
All right.
Yep.
But we will see you on Sunday as we continue our joyride. Services are at 9 and 10:45, or you can watch online at 1 o'clock. And until then, please share this out on your social media feeds and come back and join us next Sunday. Thanks for being here, friends. Go and be love.